bad. Hi guys, good evening. Welcome to another edition of My Best Losses Monday. Just a very quick stream tonight. Hey, thank you. I will take care of that after the stream tonight. So, just a very quick note, a couple of programming notes. Tonight's stream is going to be a very brief stream. It's going to be dedicated to my match against one and only Alessia Santeramo, WMF, and a big friend of this channel. Hey Davina, it's very good to see you. Welcome to the stream. It's very good to see you. And the match was very interesting. It was very trolling. There was lots of very good rivalry there. It's also characterized by a very quote-unquote unbiased commentary, and but the games themselves were interesting themselves, and I'm gonna just do a very quick overview. Hey Lali, my friend, welcome to joining the stream. It was very good to see you. Yes, and there was no Ferrari, but however, there were four different dares that will be conducted by Alessia as a result of this match. If I'm not mistaken, there is one dare is streaming for an hour in a baby costume. Then there was also a performance of a music song by David Hasselhoff. Then there is also another dare in, actually I don't even remember what all the dares were. Hey Bunkinator, my friend, it's very good. I am going over a couple of games in a match against Alessia. So to illustrate the atmosphere that was in the match, I'm gonna actually share with you a couple of videos, and they're obviously trolling videos, so you know Alessia is probably going to respond. It's basically towards the end, and that was a big highlight for me of the match, was that we played a bullet adoption matches, and I historically was never able to play bullet in any way, shape, and form. So I was actually rather pleasantly surprised that I managed to avoid adoption in both in bullet, both 1+1 and 1+0 that was played. To illustrate the atmosphere that was in the match, I'm gonna play the very end of the whole stream. This was basically a very last game of the match. And let me play this for you guys, and I'm gonna just lower the music so you guys can hear it. Let me know if you guys hear this. Oh, thank you. Okay.
Nicole, don't bully me, please.
I'm bullying you? Okay, thanks, Alessia.
Fuck! What the fuck? No, come on. Yes!
Bye, Alessia. Thank you.
We see the baby costume.
Yeah, as you guys can tell, this was definitely, a very unbiased commentary provided by Anna Maria Kazarian and my dear friend Julian Landau. Oops, sorry. But the point of tonight's stream is not so much to, commentate the match of itself. It was a very friendly match. An adoption was avoided, and yes, I never seen Jennifer Lawrence so happy. I think I even mentioned that. Actually, I'm going to show you one more highlight, in which that's actually the very highlight of this. This was the 1+1. So yeah.
Queen takes c2.
Yeah. Oh.
Queen takes pawn. Whatever. Okay. Nicholas playing fast.
That's a oh my god, that was quick. Wow.
Queen takes pawn. Yeah. Yes.
As I said, very unbiased commentary. And as I said,
Yes.
and
We're
as
not
I
rooting
said,
for anybody, but yeah.
all right, we can stop it now. As I think Davina already noticed. Hey Luigi, my friend, it's very good to see you. It was I have never seen Julian so happy in any ever, and I have watched various streams with Julian and various matches so on. In many times he was really happy, and I'm more than happy to welcome him tonight. He's a dear friend and a fellow streamer, and obviously if you don't know if you haven't given him a follow, please do so. Alessia has since challenged me to another 2 matches. There was also, I think I owe her a Ferrari or 2. I'm not necessarily sure, but we'll sort it out. There'll be more matches of this kind. And for me, the highlight of the match was characterized by basically 2 big moments. One moment was that I was able to play Bullet and actually defeat Adoption Bullet, but frankly I didn't think it was going to happen. That was number 1. And number 2 was that Alessia and I basically, and let me restart the music. I think we can now play. This is royalty free music. Is that Alessia for some reason decided that we're going to contest King's Gambit, which frankly was an advantage for me because, very frankly, King's Gambit is one of those openings that if you go to any learning establishment about chess in former Yugoslavia, they kind of direct you to play King's Gambit as a way to gauging and improving your tactical skills. So I felt that I was in a very familiar territory, so I felt pretty comfortable playing King's Gambit in this match. And I'm going to show you hey Peter Balkus, thank you for the cheer, that's very greatly appreciated. Please let me welcome Peter Balkus, who is a friend and a fellow streamer. Let me give him a shout out. And I'm also going to give a shout out to Davina, who is a WFM, and she has a very interesting chess content on her streams. So let me give her a shout out as well. Twitch. Let's go. Yeah, I hope I managed to type it. Thanks, I managed to type it for the first time. Thank you, Peter, for the cheer. That's, again, very greatly appreciated. Anyway, so I want to go over a couple of King's Gambit games that Alessia and I played. Those were actually among the very first games in this match. And let me show you because it's interesting. This is this is the very first game of the match, and I think I tried to defeat Adoption in the very first game. Hey Dirk, welcome to the stream. It's very good to see you. Hello Addy121, that's very good. Peter, thanks. It's actually probably, I have games in this match that were like 98% accuracy, so Alessia basically ran, and that's how I managed to defeat the Adoption in the first of the 4 defeated Adoptions. Basically, Alessia ran into a variation that I prepped for Omid Malek. It's basically a variation of Trompovsky. And yes, Lali, thank you for giving a shout out to Dirkje. Yes, keep an eye on Dirkje anytime, or otherwise he's going to organize an Adoption match. And also keep your eyes on Alessia, because if you let Alessia, if you don't pay attention, you're going to discover that you owe her, what is it, Julian, a Ferrari, 10 years insurance, garage, and so on. And I think there was also some island involved, and so on and so forth. Anyway, oh yes, parking. Parking and car insurance and a few other things. Anyway, so, I'm going to go over this game because this was the very first game. Was it an island shaped like a Ferrari? Yeah, okay. I don't know whether you know, Julian, this, but apparently Cheslube and Alessia conspired during our Among Us game earlier today that apparently I owe Alessia now another Ferrari, or I don't, I lost track, to be honest with you. Anyway, so this is a normal Hugh Lopez exchange variation. I've played it and I've discovered that, you know, I kind of wanted to get Alessia out of her prep because she plays this very extensively, and I didn't kind of want to really contest this with her. The regular Lopez, this is Bishop d7, that's a regular move, that's the best move for the black on this position. The idea here is to basically castle long as quickly as possible, and then after castling long to develop both bishops and basically take advantage of a slight edge in development that black ends up having. And I remember playing this way back in the 1980s, and I found it very tricky, but white has a way of you know, allowing this. So computer likes bishop e3. I personally prefer to castle first, and obviously, you know, computer over-evaluates this game with this position because it assumes that bishop pair is valid half a pawn. Oh, and thank you for Peter. Thank you, very greatly appreciated for the host. That's very greatly. Thank you. Very greatly appreciated, my friend. Anyway, so after knight e7, which is all standard theory, knight c3, c5, knight b3, and frankly, knight b3 in retrospect, I probably should have followed the computer guideline here and played knight d2. The knight is a little bit out of place here. It's not necessarily critical, but it's a small inaccuracy that you know, it's going to end up being problematic, as you will see. b6 restricts the knight. Rook d1, or knight c6, threatening a couple of things, threatening to jump on b4, which is annoying, threatening at some point to jump on c4, threatening knight e5. In other words, it's a normal way to develop for black in this position. I play knight d5, which is a perfectly fine move, and then here Alessia made a tactical blunder that Julian noticed here, noticed immediately, and actually made a comment after the game. There is a tactical strike that I should have just taken on b6, and after, you know, after something like cb6, the bishop on d6 is undefended. I didn't see it during the game, unfortunately, so that's a missed opportunity for white in this position. So what I proceeded to do here was, you know, I went to go in and try to, you know, oh, did we get the raid or no? Okay, so just for the new viewers that have joined us, welcome to my best losses. Welcome to my best losses Monday. My name is Nicholas Stoishin. I'm an amateur player in my mid-50s. This is a regular feature on my stream. Thank you Adi121 for the follow, and thank you NP Sharky for the follow, in which I'm analyzing games that I've played usually on Sundays, adoption matches against players that are stronger against me. They're always losses, and I analyze them on stream. The purpose of the analysis is to gain some insight into my thinking and see what I could have done better, and also hopefully improve my chess in the process. So I'm showing the match from the games from the match against WFM Alessia Santeramo. I'm gonna give Alessia Santeramo a quick shout out, and also the match was very friendly. One of the commentators, the match is the chat. He is Julian Landau, and because I would like to just show you the very end of the match, because it was characterized with a little bit of trolling. And this is the very first game of the match, and I here missed a simple tactical opportunity of taking on b6, and basically after rook b6 capturing on b6. So that's a missed opportunity, which is why I'm showing this on a Best Losses Monday. F4 is actually the first fairly significant mistake I made in this game. In many ways, it's a little bit too committal, and it creates a space for this bishop on g4 to deliver, to kind of develop and also contest, help the rooks contest the d file. So that was a move that I would like to have back now. Unfortunately, but my plan at the time was to follow the guidelines that came from a game of more than 100 years ago, Lasker Capablanca in 1914, in which Lasker, who was at that time world champion, basically played f5. The idea here is to try to gain as much space as possible, or maybe push e5, f5, gain space, and basically kind of close the position so I can fight against the bishops. Unfortunately, it's Alessia obviously is a very strong player, and she didn't let me after f4 play e5. Computer prefers bishop e6, and the reason why computer prefers bishop e6 is because this particular knight b6 move is still available, but neither I nor Alessia saw it the first time it was possible, and we certainly didn't see it the second time either. So to continue, I played c3. I tried to restrict the knight on c6, and then after rook to e8, which computer likes, I wanted to start transitioning the knight over from b3 to the king side when it's actually gonna do some any good. And computer values this position as significantly better for black, and it's objectively a rather unpleasant position. And primary reason is that this pawn on e4 is a little bit troubled. In other words, this pawn is somewhat difficult to defend, and that's one of the consequences of playing f4 a couple of moves ago. All right, so instead of bishop g4, Alessia played knight e7 to get rid of that active knight, and I reinforced it with c4, and Alessia then played knight c6, which actually her attempt was to basically take advantage of those b4 and d4 weak spots in the white's position. It transpired throughout the game that having this outpost on d5 is actually more valuable for white than any possibility for black to develop this knight, because on b4 it's not really possible to go, and d4 is also going to be closed for some time. All right, so knight rook fe1, computer prefers e5. e5 here would allow some sort of a tactical stroke, but anyway, I didn't see it at the time, and therefore, and if you look here, computer likes e5, and then after e5, bishop f8. You have an option to play knight on e4, and all of a sudden white pieces are somewhat very well defended, and it transpires that this particular pawn is invulnerable because white has all sorts of unpleasant counter threats. And I'm going to show you what happens if takes, and then takes. Then you have bishop g5. And this is actually very unpleasant. though computers still consider this better for black, but that's one of the reasons why e5 pawn cannot be captured by black. To get back to the actual game, after bishop g4, and which has been a motive throughout, I played rook c1, which is the best and logical move, knight d4, and we exchanged that knight. That knight is very troubling, and I thought that at some point I would be able to capture the pawn on d4. Which turned out to be easier said than done. And anyway, h3, that bishop from is on g4 is very unpleasant because it kind of dominates the light field complex in the white's position. Oh, thanks you, Peter. Thank you for the cheer. That's very greatly appreciated. Bishop h5, g4. These are all normal moves. Bishop f7, and finally f5. I kind of was aiming for this position from the moment I actually played f4 a few moves ago, because the idea here was that white has multiple outposts for the knights, and I was kind of hoping that maybe I can get the king to f3, which would relieve the pieces from defending the pawn on f4, and also maybe get the knight to f4 and therefore threaten to take advantage of the e6 strong point. Obviously the game didn't develop that way. h5 is a normal pawn push. It was a little bit premature because king g2 basically neutralizes that particular pawn challenge. You know, at the time I didn't really think I was worse. Yes, objectively black has a bishop pair, but this is a very closed position, and knights can take advantage. Knights have potential very big, very strong points at d5, e6, g6. There is no real pawn push here for black to open the position to develop the bishops, and you know, taking on g4, it's easily countered by rook h1, and it's actually questionable which size has the advantage of opening the position. Hey, Peter Balkus, it's very good to see you. Thank you. Hello, bonjour, privet, hola, dobar dan. I'm enjoying chess time with you guys. I'm very happy to see you guys here. I'm really happy to share this first game of the match with Alessia. So one significant aspect of all adoption matches, is that I only really need a draw. And having to need a draw, I thought that this was still a fairly defensible position. It was not, I should be able to hold this position objectively. Anyway, so we then knight f3. So in other words, the original plan here was to basically get the king, activate the king, have it defend pawn on e4, defend the pawn on g4. That basically means that this particular pawn chain, once there is this exchange, is solidified, and then the rooks can contest h5 to their heart's content. And it's also impossible for black to really start to mount a double attack on e4 pawn. Anyway, so after c6 is the best move. That knight on d5 is challenging. Knight f4 is basically the only move. Takes on g4, bishop b4 is a little bit tricky, but it's easily countered by rook d1. And here is the first tricky situation for white. White really wants to get one of its rooks to the h5. And one of the problems and the reasons I lost this game is that because of this tactical strike, I couldn't really bring the rook over, because obviously I bring it, rook takes on h1, rooks take on d1, and knight on d2 is undefended. So, you know, thankfully, you know, I played, so you really cannot, white really cannot tolerate this bishop on b4 for very long. So I played a3, and computer here prefers e5. After bishop on d6, I should have rook h1 is actually the best move. And after c5, so we should, you know, stop here. We're going to get to one of the crucial positions, and this is actually probably the key moment in this game. How does one evaluate this position? Okay, so the rooks kind of cancel each other out on the H file. In other words, there is really nothing there for either side to genuinely consider in any way, shape, and form. It's really, there is no advantage for any of the sides. In other words, that's really not there. The number of pawns is basically equal, and black does have a protected passed pawn, which basically means that white should be very careful about transitioning this into a pawn endgame, because pawn endgame here is probably lost for white on the account of this protected passed pawn. However, and that's one thing in favor of black. Another thing in favor of black is that it does have a bishop pair, and bishop pair is obviously considered a half a pawn to up to a whole pawn advantage. The issue here is that this is a closed position, and the closed position favors knights. And this particular knight on d5 has an outpost from which it can really only be taken away from by giving up a bishop pair. And that's actually what Alessia chose to do, and that actually was not a good decision according to the computer. Computer wants to play b5 and try to develop some, you know, counterplay along the b file and undermine this strong point on d5. And it's probably objectively a very good plan, but what Alessia did instead was she took on d5. And here is, from my standpoint, this is basically, I made here one of those imperceptibly blunders that caused me to lose the game. And just for all the people who have recently joined us, I think we have 743 viewers. Welcome to Nicholas Stoichin channel. Welcome to my Best Losses Monday series of streams. This is a weekly stream in which I show an analysis on stream of losses, games that I have lost that I think might be instructive, and they're usually associated with weekly matches, adoption matches that I play against strong players on Sundays. So tonight I'm showing a couple of games from the match I played against WFM Alessia Santeramo, and I'm gonna give you a quick shout out. She's a fellow streamer, she's a great lady, and please give her a shout out and a follow. She also plays Among Us, and my dear friend Julian Landau, and her, I think we owe her a Ferrari because we lost a couple of challenges. Anyway, so this is the very first game of the match, and this is the key position in this match. And the key position here, basically the whole game turns on one very simple question. And that very simple question is this. White needs to take this bishop with a pawn, and which pawn should white take the bishop with? And obviously, if here is a computer evaluation is on screen, if white takes it with a bishop with an e-pawn, this position is drawn, and it's fairly easily drawn. And the reason why it's easily drawn is very simple, the following. knight in this position, the knight on d2, once it comes, and by any, let me make just some sort of a move, rook e8, and I play knight e4. And knight e4 cannot really be effectively dislodged by any of black pieces from that position. It completely dominates the position, it dominates the bishop, and it provides full compensation. If you look closer, you will see the computer, the longer it thinks, the more it prefers the white's position. It's basically, this position is equal. In other words, although black has a protected passed pawn, which means white needs to be very careful about transitioning this position to a pawn endgame, because it would be lost on the occasion of this particular d-pawn. It compensates for that passed pawn, and this is an easy draw. And given that this was an adoption match is basically a match in which the stronger side needs to win 10 games in a row and the weaker side needs only to draw one. I would have, as a weaker side, I would have won the match. And winning the match, defeating adoption in the very first game feels really good. Speaking there, Assegli, there is a fork, but it's black's turn to move. So presumably black would play bishop e5 and so on and so forth. Or, well, okay, that's not a good move. King c7 is the best move. So it's not black's turn. It would be very nice if it were the case. So obviously. And funny thing is that this would have been a relatively easy draw. Since I'm showing this on my best losses, it's obviously that's not the move I made. So instead, I was under the impression that, why don't I, that I can take advantage of, c4 as an outpost. And also I could then maybe push g5 and maybe have some sort of two protected post pawns. And I made an error, and this position is objectively lost, but it's not from a computer standpoint, but from a practical standpoint, there's still some possibilities, but I've done myself a very significant disfavor by taking it with the wrong pawn. Anyway, so Alessia did one of the series of tricky moves, and the tricky move here is bishop h2, and the logic between a move of bishop h2 is that it provides all sorts of tactical opportunities associated. Let's say I play something along the lines of g5, then rook g3 well, it's a blunder, but basically it kind of obstructs white rooks into contesting the h file. And I have to say, for a blitz game in which I only had 1 minute to think, this was a rather unnerving move, and Alessia is very strong in making you deal with tactics that you normally need a couple of minutes to think about and sort through, and I obviously didn't find the right solution. I proceeded with knight c4, which is already an accuracy. Best move was to basically try to undermine the black's pawn chain by pushing d4, which probably would have saved the game. Instead, I allowed her to play, rook h3, and then all of a sudden I find myself in a situation that it is black who is controlling the h file. In other words, rooks are doubled, and although they can't be removed, now rook g3 is a genuine threat and a rather annoying threat at it. So in many ways, this was another key moment. Alessia played a trap, and I kind of sprang into it by playing knight c4. It wasn't a very good move. It played into Alessia's hand, and after rook h3, king g2 is actually the best move. Rook h8 from dh8 is the best move. And here is an interesting thing. You know, this knight is reasonably well placed, but it really has nowhere to go. It's not generating any threats. I probably should have bit the bullet and played e5 and then basically generated some counterplay, counterplayed there. But I was under the impression, I didn't have time to calculate the key line, and the key line is basically this, and then, you know, obviously black cannot take on e5, but then black can also have rook e3, and then knight is under attack, and then this bishop cannot be taken because rook e2 and then take on h2. And you know, obviously at 27 seconds, I really cannot, I didn't have time to calculate those complications. So I played what, you know, I consider a safe move, which is rook d2, and that's not exactly a losing move, that's a move that put position, makes white's predicament much worse. Rook h4, king f3, king c7, and then after rook g2, which is a natural move, d5, rook d2, and I really don't have time to generate any counterplay on the g file. And here, basically, here is a passed pawn. Any counterplay is neutralized by this bishop of e5, and these rooks are extremely well placed, and even after, you know, we exchange rooks, I'm still in pretty bad shape. And then, you know, I then even blundered the knight. I was trying to generate some counterplay, but there was no counterplay, and the rest is really not significant. It was just, you know, the game is basically lost. So it's actually very typical for for games that I normally played with Alessia, and I play these games with quite a few games with Alessia, in a sense that you know, I started playing this game very positionally, and this was all basically book and theory. I don't think I was significantly worse here. I think computer overestimates the position. Then, you know, I managed to build up the position when it's approximately equal. I had a very clear path to clear a draw in this position, and the clear path to the draw was to take on ed5, which I didn't take advantage of. Then I have a couple of other opportunities that I missed. I didn't have time to calculate, and the game was lost. I don't really consider that, you know, and I'll spare you the rest of this game. So, you know, I don't really consider that I really lost this game very emphatically, or that in any way, shape, and form this was a very decisive defeat. But I think that I should have spent more time on a couple of critical positions, and in some ways I allowed Alessia to emphasize the strength of her position. It is, she loves going into these tactical complications, and I've lost quite a few games against Alessia in which he was completely lost, but she complicated, and then I managed to fall into some sort of a trap. And this was, I was never really winning this game, but this was also typical here. We are gonna show this, the following game is gonna be more typical of the usual game I played in this match, which was, if you look closer at the analysis, you will see that basically I was completely winning, but then I managed to blunder and so on and so forth. But the most interesting part objectively of this is that Alessia played King's Gambit. King Gambit is, yes, AC. Okay, yes, Hedgehog, no worries. The music is no copyright royalty free. I verified it. That's fine. I'll send you the link in DMs. That's true. Yeah, that's a nice trick. And this is, Anyway, so f4, and, what was very funny is that we were actually trolling each other. I told you that I usually take and I play h6, and then she played what is objectively not a very good move, but it's the trickiest move from this line. Because the reason people play h6 is what you want to do, when you play h6 line, you want to push g6, g5, bishop g7, d6, and then bishop on g7, and then you're defending. You have a nice pawn chain from h6, g5, f4, and you also prevent white from going into a line that goes to if you do g5 immediately, then white can play h4 and so on and so forth. I'm honored to have you here. Thank you, my dear friend. I don't like h4 for the very simple reason that you will see it creates an outpost. It creates a couple of weaknesses here, and I think the book instructs us, and I played this many years ago, so I might be wrong, that knight h5 is a very tricky move in this line, because white really cannot push g4 and cannot push g3 here, which is a thematic continuation here. So I kind of always felt that I'm comfortable here. And even if you don't want to play knight f6, d5 is another option. And then this pawn is definitely out of space and creates all sorts of weak spots around. That might be my personal opinion, but I'm really not, Anyway, so I play knight f6 because that's the line I remember that played. d6, d4, and knight h5. And this is if you want, the topical position for this h6, h4 line. You have here knight on h5, which is a little bit out of place, but it's really always creates this threat to jump on g3. It also kind of annoyingly defends the pawn of f4, so white cannot play bishop f4, which is why I kind of like it. Alright, so bishop c4, bishop e7, okay, computer prefers knight c6, fine. Queen d3, and castles, and then bishop d2, h5, which is probably, we are trying to generate some attack on the bishop on c4, and also to start pushing the pawns in, because we expect here that white is going to castle long, and obviously some sort of a c6, b5, and then keep pushing the pawns and try to attack on the queen side. And funny thing is that from a standpoint of white, it really cannot generate any kind of pawn storm here because of the pawn on f4, and these two pawns are kind of in a not very good position. Anyway, so after this, I played c6, obvious move, d5. d5 locks down the bishop and takes, bishop b3, and knight c6, and c3, queen c7. Obviously, we are trying to keep this f4 pawn defended as long as possible. We're ultimately, if you are black, you kind of are already given it up, but as long as it stays on the board, it continues to be tricky, and it causes trouble for white. All right, so bishop c2 is obviously a tricky move. I'm not gonna blunder a mate on h7, though I have to say I've blundered a few mates of similar mates in the past, and I will continue to do that in the future. And here is a very interesting position. interesting position here is that white is developed, but development doesn't really need anywhere. This battery here is basically kicking the granite here. It cannot be undermined because of the knight. This pawn is defended, it's obstructing this bishop. This knight can go on e5, but really can't because of this battery on c6 and e5. Knight on e2 doesn't have anywhere to go. So objectively, I thought this position was better for, was better for me, and I was actually very happy with this position. Alessia then made one of those moves that tricky moves that she makes, and the move, basically the reason this move is tricky is that she's basically not really, but I didn't see it in the heat of the game. She's threatening to take the pawn on d5. In truth and honesty, that pawn cannot really be taken, but I didn't calculate that right. I was under the impression that queen d5 is possible, and I'll show you guys why it's not possible. It's not possible because if I play any kind of neutral move, let's say bishop d7, and if white takes, then after bishop e6, and then queen b5, and then knight a7, if queen d3, bishop b5, and this bishop is basically lost. And the whole motive in this position is that, believe it or not, this queen, and I didn't play bishop d7, I play rook d8, which is not a good move, that this queen is actually out of place. It really doesn't have any places to go. And most of the places where it can retreat to are, d3, and queen d3 is not possible because of bishop f5, and you can tell that this position jumped to 8, and it cannot really go to b3 because, though here it's the best move, because black can here put the bishop on a6, and then this knight who is protecting the king is in danger, and it's only the king that's defending the knight, so white cannot castle, and it's all of a sudden a fairly tricky position. Anyway, so to cut a long story short, none of this was played in the game. Alessia castles, which is actually a mistake, and then after b6, the queen is basically trapped for the reasons I showed you guys. And the only move, and the best move, one of the best moves in these positions, if you look here, computer says, oh, play g4. Hey, they did a great. Or take on f4 and sacrifice the piece. The big threat here is a bishop a6. And here is bishop a6, not only targets the queen, but also targets this knight, which is undefended. And after queen b3, bishop a6, it transpires that, the white really doesn't, the queen is under a double threat. First, black is threatening to take on e2, but black is more significantly threatening to put bishop on c4, and this queen is gone because, he has nowhere to go. And what's also interesting is that, this knight is also hanging. And funny part is when the knight is hanging, but then also bishop c4 after is played is still the same threat of capturing the queen remains. So I was at this point thought that I was winning this position, and I was actually very excited, and I remember my hands shaking because I had an adrenaline rush that, okay, adoption will be defeated. Alessia found, and she always does in these tactical positions, bishop g6, which is actually an excellent move. Basically now all the threats are no longer there. Rook e2 basically saves the knight temporarily. Computer wanted me to play here knight b4. Very frankly, at 11 seconds I didn't have time to think about this. So, you know, the threat is basically from b4. You can then again play bishop c4, and then you can jump on d3, get the rook, and so on and so forth. Anyway, so rook f1 takes on I took on e2, I took on e2, knight g3, and you know, when dust settled, and I'm gonna spare you, you know, somewhere around here, I have basically I'm whole rook to the better in this position. And this is one of my frustrations in my chess generally, is that this should have been an easily won game for me. But the problem is that I'll now only have 9 seconds. And as you know, when I start going down in time this much, especially in a position that's relatively complicated as this, my elo goes down 400 or 500 points, and I actually managed to lose this game. In the end, this is already a blunder. Knight h2 is not a very good. Doubling the rook is fine, and then rook e2 is basically blundering the whole rook. Please don't ask me why I played that move. It's just, you know, blindness. Takes. And here is the very funny part. Even after blundering the rook on e2, I'm still better in this position. But I'm better if I find, you know, with 4 seconds that I have this knight d4 tactical strike. You know, if I'm blundering the rook on e2 with 4 seconds, I'm not finding that tactical strike with 4 seconds left. Unfortunately, I'm still old and slow, as my emote shows. I'm going to share this with you guys. This is my favorite emote. It's too old and too slow. For Shah, I play with increment. This is 5+2, but that doesn't help. And what's very funny is that actually, Segli, that is the game. Basically, we all laughed when she played King's Gambit. That is the game. Basically, both her and I played King's Gambit in like 3 or 4 games. So that was the joke. So you know. Anyway, funny part is that I'm going to show that will be the last game I show. You know, and then after this I kind of started playing very imprecisely, and you know. And this is one of Alessia's strengths. She is very tactical. She's a very strong player, and to my surprise, we actually played 2 bullet adoption matches afterwards, and I was able to defeat those bullet adoption matches very quickly. I think in game 2 and game 3 afterwards. But for me to, you know, and obviously this is just a stupid blunder, and you know, mate in 2, and Alessia is not gonna miss this, and this was mate. Yeah, hey Asegli, thank you for the follow. So interestingly enough, you know, I handled this game very well. I think the opening was fine. I think the whole knight h5, defense here was perfectly fine. I like actually this particular line. However, you know, and then trapping the queen was also very good. All of that was excellent. It's just, you know, blundering the rook, and not necessarily blundering the rook, but the fact that I blunder for rook requires a mental adjustment, that you need to switch from a position in which you are, you know, almost 10 points up to a position that's only 1 point up. And I find those transitions to be very difficult to handle. And that's basically how I ended up losing this game. And this is how I ended up, not defeating adoption. Thankfully, in the subsequent game that we played, Alessia managed to play into my opening preparation that I prepared for Omid Malik. I'm not going to show it because it's not a loss, and that there I basically was able to follow that opening preparation into a win, and I didn't blunder in that position, and that was when the adoption was defeated. Yeah, thanks Santaris, that's very nice of you, appreciate it. And yeah, there is no explanation for Rookie 2, it's just the type of blindness and blundering that I suffer from on a rather regular basis. And if you guys don't know about this, but I even have a mode that says do not blunder. I'll share this with you in the chat, but there you go. Interesting thing is, one thing that I'm gonna send a note to self, I'm going to show you one more game, and believe it or not, that's actually a bullet. That's a bullet game that I won. Thanks, Santaris. Sometimes on Mondays I do show my best wins. And this is a draw, but you will see that's a draw. This is from our bullet 1+1 adoption match that we played afterwards. And that's, I think, third game or a second game in which that particular match was defeated, and I'm going to share this with you. What I find interesting is that I'm not very good at bullet. My bullet rating, as you can tell, is 1700. Alessia is actually about the same as her blitz, if not better. But for me to play bullet from the beginning is easier to do than switching from playing a blitz game, especially a longer blitz game like 5+2, and then switching to bullet mindset. Yeah, and this was an adoption match, so this actually, it's a draw. I should have lost the game, which is why I'm showing it today, but it was an interesting game, which is why I wanna share this with you. And technically, from a standpoint of adoption match, it was, and as you guys can tell, we're still playing King's Gambit. And anyway, so H6 again, and then Alessia played G3, which is actually, probably not the best decision from a chess standpoint. Yet from a bullet standpoint, it throws one off because it's not really any kind of theoretical continuation. Obviously, in a bullet game, nobody has a memory to remember how to play it. Anyway, so takes d5. I figured d5 is computer likes it. It's the best move. I figured it couldn't be bad. Knight c6, bishop g3, and this is still a bullet game. And here is Nicola doing the same thing he usually does. There was no reason to take this knight on f3, but I did it, and here is my favorite move of the game. It's knight e5. I'm basically having an attack of blindness similar to this rook e2, and I'm basically gifting a whole knight. And the interesting thing is that Alessia didn't even take it. She didn't see it. Obviously, bullet game being bullet game. And I had a chance to save the knight, but again I'm oblivious to it. Alessia took it, queen c6 and queen a7. Okay, so just I want to stop here because I have 30 seconds left, and this is +1 increment, so there is a little bit of more time left. And this is a completely lost position for black, and by all objective standards, this is virtually a resignable position. This knight is pinned. White can play e6, You know, and I actually played what, and basically it's completely indefensible. This pawn is basically, because the knight is pinned, is about to be taken, and white should win this position fairly easily. However, I had exactly one tactical motive to play in this game, and it's this queen is in a little bit danger of being trapped. And you will see b6 is a good move because it basically prepares the trap for the white queen. And guess what? After rook takes on h6, queen d7, which is actually not objectively a good move, because, you know, this pawn is pinned, so taking on f5, you can't take it because then the rook can take the queen, and the game is lost. But Alessia didn't play it. She played rook f7, basically unpinning the knight, that pawn, and here the trap is shut, is sprung. The queen is trapped. If you look objectively at this position, white is still better, and any kind of normal continuation along the lines of take on a8 and then take on f7, take on f5 here, and you know, white ends up having basically 3 pawns and a rook for the queen, and plus protected pass pawn. This should have been an easily won game. Anyway, so rook f7, rook e7, rook f5, takes, and here is where Alessia, as I mentioned before, is a very tricky player, and she's always looking for tactical chances and tactical advantages. So she played a tricky move, which actually is a bad move, which is e6. And this is where things start turning into my favor. Obviously, the only move is king e6, and then rook e7, king e7, and then rook e1, and the queen is still trapped. And I'm here. This is objectively a position in which black is not better, but black is it would be difficult to defeat black in this position. And not only that, but the time it's easier to play black position, because white needs to coordinate, you know, its pieces, and I really only have the queen to play with. So it's a position that's very easy for me to play, and it's harder. And we're here talking about last 15 seconds of the bullet game. Anyway, so bishop e3 is actually already not the best move. Queen g8 and queen g4. And after rook e5, I played c6 and, you know, rook e1 and queen f3. And here is probably another key moment of the game. Key moment of the game is that, and this being an adoption match, Alessia needs to find some way in which to win this game. And it's not immediately obvious how to win. This bishop is very well placed, but black doesn't really have any weaknesses in the position or any targets that can be captured. These 3 pawns cannot be captured because white doesn't have 2 pieces to attack them with, and they're easily defended by either king or queen. This king is very passive and actually needs to be protected. So what Alessia did, she played b3, which is actually a pretty significant mistake. And it's a mistake because it allows a queen, all of a sudden queen can go here to c3, can threaten this check, can capture this pawn. It opened up the position for the black king. I played c5, which is actually not the best move. I should have played queen c3 immediately. But you know what, at the bullet game with 15 seconds left, don't consider it bad. I took on c5, a4 and then d4, and after d4 I basically said to myself that there is no way I'm losing this position. And indeed I didn't lose it. I played queen c3, and this is basically now starting to be a one position for black. And the next few moves that were actually played at the bullet speed show queen c3, queen d3 is actually blunder, queen c3 takes the pawn, queen d3, queen b3, but here is black is already in a one position, and Alessia made a blunder of taking on f5. I gave a check on c2 and took on f5 and queen g4. And keep in mind, guys, this is an adoption match, which means that to draw is enough, and you know, trolling was very much part of the match. It was basically a game between friends, and I basically took a g3, and obviously this is now a completely drawn position, and this was drawn, and adoption match was defended. Adoption was defeated. Why am I showing you this game? I'm showing you this game because I have historically been it was very difficult for me to avoid making blunders, and I'm normally a very slow player. This was my very first game on stream against a stronger opponent at bullet speed. After this, we played another bullet adoption match, and there I also managed to avoid being adopted. I actually won that game. And in many ways, if you look at this video that says, okay, thanks Alessia, bye Alessia, that's basically the very, that's basically the very end of that game. And I'm gonna share with you another video. That's a video that basically, actually, you know what, we are here. I'm gonna play this for you. Let me mute this music. Since you guys, we have many viewers here who haven't seen this. I played this at the beginning of the game. Hey, Attempto, thank you for gifting all these tier 1 subs. Gifting tier subs to the community. Very greatly appreciated. Anyway.
No, of course I am rooting for
Alright, so let me just...
So
this is the end of that of the game that I've shown you.
Yeah, oh.
He takes pawn, whatever.
And yeah.
Okay. Nicholas playing fast. He's pretty.
Yeah. Oh, that's a oh my god, that was quick. Wow.
Queen takes pawn. Yeah! Yes!
And as you guys... Oh, Nikki, thank you for the raid. That's very greatly appreciated. Welcome, raiders. Thank you for the raid. And, all right, I'm going to pause this. First, welcome, raiders coming from the Nikki's stream. Welcome to My Best Losses Monday. My name is Nicholas Deutschen. I'm streaming My Best Losses from the match I played against WFM Alessia Santeramo yesterday. Mind you, Antares, this is an adoption match, so me drawing, me forcing a draw means I have defeated adoption. And as you can tell, to FM and Amaya Kazarian, and I'm going to give both of them a quick shout out. They were both very unbiased. They were obviously rooting for me. And let me give a shout out to FM Julian Landau, who was here before. And please give them a follow. They are big friends of this channel. For me to be able to do this is, for me, a pretty big achievement. I'm historically known from losing one positions in endgame, and to be able to play bullet of stream, it's actually, I'm pretty proud. This particular video that Mubot posted is how I adopted adoption. I played adoption match against Julian Landau, Julian is this gentleman on the right, and he managed to flag needlessly. If you click on the link, you will see that. So again, thank you, Nikki, for the raid. That's very greatly appreciated. Welcome, raiders. Since we have the raiders here, I'm actually going to show another video, and I'm going to show another game from that I played with Alessia. Let me see where that game is. It's another bullet game right here. And I'm just going to do a very quick analysis. This was actually 1-0, and I'm sorry I'm actually showing a win, but for me this is a cause for celebration. That is correct, Flash of Steel. If I actually played 17 adoption matches against various strong players, and I was actually adopted twice. Once I played against Aman Hambleton. That was one adoption match I lost, and then I also played against Grandmaster Anna Muzichuk, and that's the lost. And I'm actually playing this Sunday against WFM Ellen Nielsen, and those matches are at noon on Sundays. And this coming Sunday, I'm playing against WFM Ellen Nielsen. I played against quite a few very strong players, and I think my result in those matches is 15 to 2. I just only got adopted twice. Yeah. And incidentally, Flash of Steel, if you want to play Aman every Sunday, Chessbra have Sub Sunday, and anybody who is their sub can play, and Aman is usually the one who plays against subs. I lost a lot of games against Aman. I think I managed to win 2 games against Aman in my playing history. The score is something like 227, 2 wins on my side versus 27. And so anyway, in all honesty, since I'm talking about this, that's one of the beauties of 21st century year 2020 chess on Twitch. You can basically play against world champion. I played against Alexandra Kostyanyuk. I played against Anna Muzichuk. I played against Aman. I played against Hikaru plenty of times. You can just play against a grandmaster or a world champion almost, I don't want to say whenever you want, but it's possible. I remember back in my day that I had to play for a year and a half for a chess club that I was asked to play for to get a game against the Grandmaster Ljubomir Ljubojevic in a simul. So, Opferschach, yeah, title players are difficult. It's hard to play. They're tricky, and there is a reason they have a title. Anyway, so let me show you this game because however strange it may sound, I'm pretty proud of this game because this was 1 minute game, and this was a game that I think I'm justifying because I had a completely lost position, and you will discover that I managed to actually outswindle the master swindler Alessia, basically beat her at her own thing. I'm still pretty happy about it. And anyway, so after here, basically this was a quick move that was a mistake. Basically in this position, I'm gonna just show you. So this is black is still better because it has a pawn advantage, but after a castle, this is a completely equal position. It's equal because white has controls the open file. It will be able to place in the next move rook on d7, and that rook on d7 compensated for the extra pawn that black has. On top of it, these pawns are on the white squares, and they really cannot be targeted by this bishop. And also this knight, as it transpires, is going to turn out to be fairly tricky. It was... anyway, But if we go back a few moves, like here, this position is basically completely lost. Like this position is completely lost for white because of the bishop pair, because of the doubled pawns and so on. But anyway, you know, it is a bullet game after all. Blunders are normal. Rook d7, rook fd8, takes. This is still a draw position, and after c6 is basically not a very good move because first it blunders a pawn, and second allows this tactical trick that was actually played, and this was obviously a huge blunder because it blunders the mate in two, and I'm not don't want to sound bashful, but I am. Yeah, and this is basically what Hedgehog has posted, and I'm going to play that video very shortly. Basically, there is this mate motive is called the hook mate, and Alessia basically blundered a mate in one, and I was able to spot it, and that basically was the defeat. It was a great moment. Let me actually play the video of that moment. No, Alessia is not gonna. And for the record, you know, Alessia is a much stronger player than me. She won the 2014 Italian National Championship, and last year she came second. She is a vice champion. Let me play this for you guys. I think it's actually interesting to see. So anyway, this is the end point of the game.
Nicola, don't bully me, please.
Yeah, you can see trash talk was ongoing. Okay, thanks, Alessia.
Fuck! What the fuck? No, come on. Yes!
Bye, Alessia. Yeah. And you can see the unbiased commentary.
We see the baby costume.
And incidentally, the there here was hey, yes. Yeah, exactly, Dr. Lono. It was definitely a very unbiased commentary, but let me put it this way. Everybody on that stream, myself, Julian, and Anamaya, we have been all, I don't want to say this, but we have been all put in a position that we had to perform dares because Alessia beats us and then persuaded us to accept dares. So I think a big part of it is... that was a big part of it. And the dare here, and I'm going to give a huge shout out to Alessia, please, she's going to announce it. As a result of this game, she needs to perform in I was concerned about that. Yeah, that I'm still not very proud of it, but you know, it's content. So give Alessia a huge shout out. And because she has to perform a stream in a baby costume for a whole hour and play games. So that's probably going to happen sometime this week. And she's also, I think, supposed to dress as a Marge Simpson. So that's going to be a very interesting stream. So please join Alessia's stream for that. Okay. Anyway. First, thank you guys all for being here. Welcome again for My Best Losses Monday. It was very good to have everybody here and share this match with Alessia. My next stream is going to be sometime later this week. I may or may not have my Anna Rudolph stream, because Anna is busy commentating US National Championship. I'm probably going to have one more stream, maybe the inaugural arena on Saturday. I'm going to post a link to my Discord in chat, so please join the Discord. I'm going to send the announcement. We plan on hosting an arena with prizes on Saturday, and I'm definitely playing Ellen Nielsen, again commentary with FM Anna Maya Kazarian on Sunday at noon Eastern time, and there will be a couple of more streams later this week. So please join, and let's see who should we raid today? Who is streaming? Let's see. All right. Okay. All right. So the big event today is actually return of Alexandra Bottas to streaming chess. So I'm gonna send the raid over to Alexandra Bottas, and I think they're actually playing chess today. So that will be the big raid. Oh, even not, they're playing each other. Wonderful. And Dirkia, thank you for being here. Thank you, Nikki, for the raid. Thank you guys thank you, Peter Balkus, for the cheers. Thank you for the follows, and thank you everything. And oh, okay. Well, let's celebrate return of Alexandra Bottas to this. And let's see. Let's send you over. And bye, guys.